Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Data Contract First Governance, Building Trust Through Data Products. My name is Kathleen and I'm here on behalf of Carinium, proud to be hosting this webinar in collaboration with Actian. Before we get started, just a bit of housekeeping. If you have any questions during the webinar, feel free to drop them in the chat or join us at the end for a live Q&A with our speakers. In today's data landscape, trust isn't accidental. It's something you build intentionally through structure, accountability, and shared understanding. That's why more and more organizations are embracing a data product approach, one that's grounded in data contracts that clearly define ownership, expectations, and quality from the start. With the Spring 25 product launch, Actian is introducing powerful new capabilities to help teams scale contract-first governance across domains without slowing down innovation. Whether you're building a data marketplace or working to align distributed teams, this webinar will equip you with practical strategies to drive trusted, scalable data operations. We want to thank Actian for collaborating with us today and to all of the amazing speakers who took part in today's event. Thank you for joining us, and now let's dive in.
So welcome to this first part of the webinar, where I will be talking a little bit about putting data contracts first, which is the philosophy behind the roadmap in the Actian Data Intelligence Platform. And so what I really want to do in this particular session is to really establish the concepts of a data product and a data contract. So let's just break it down to simple explanations, really what is a data product and what is a data contract, so that later on you can understand how we put these concepts first in our data intelligence platform. So if we look into a data product, obviously data products has been discussed for several years in the data community. More forward-thinking, innovative companies, both technology companies, but also larger enterprises with complex data ecosystems, have been implementing and using and providing data products for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. The term data product got really popular with the rise of the data mesh movement, which is now 2, 3, 4 years back in time, even 5 years, some would argue. So what is a data product? Basically, a data product is a small container of data grouped as one consumable product. So what you need to understand behind this easy explanation is that computationally, a data product is an independent unit. It does not depend on anything else to operate. And this idea has caused the data community to provide several definitions of data products. You can find multiple explanations of what a data product is exactly. And that's because you can build data products in many different ways. But the core idea of a data product really is that it's a small consumable product of data. So that's the simple explanation. But what you need to consider also is that a data product, to really understand it, I think of data products as an alternative. So that's the second point here. Data products are alternatives to big solutions that often end up as silos like data warehouses and data lakes. Now, this is a very common experience that many companies have made over the last couple of decades, with data warehouses being really innovative, really great. There's really nothing wrong in data warehouses, architectures. However, over time, the data warehouse architecture that was really intended to serve BI, traditional reporting analytics of what happened in the past, these data warehouses, they couldn't keep up with demand of what people wanted to use data for in terms of analytics. Data warehouses really aren't very good at machine learning use cases or even artificial intelligence use cases. I mean, in some cases they are, but really, if you want to train a model for something, for example, and a data warehouse is not the ideal solution for them. And also, they had so much demand that they couldn't keep up with all that demand. So instead, unfortunately, data warehouses turned into silos. Now, some years later, that also happened for data lakes. Data lakes obviously had less rigid control in terms of data quality, but they also ended up being very, very messy. And well, the popular term was that they turned into a data swamp because the data was untrustworthy and so forth. So really, a data product addresses these problems with data warehouses and data lakes and offers an alternative, which is the data product architecture. Small containers of data that do not need a big solution bringing together providers of data and consumers of data in a solution managed by a team in the middle that has little understanding of the origins of data and the potential consumption of data. And so instead, the data product architecture links producers and consumers of data directly. That brings me to my third point. Data products are domain specific. Data products belong somewhere. They belong in a domain. That could be manufacturing, it could be finance, it could be human resource. Data comes from somewhere. And the uniqueness of data products is that they express the nature of the domain in which they belong, meaning that in terms of data structure, detailing, and perspective. For example, a product in a company will be expressed differently in a legal department than in a manufacturing department. That is very natural. And so the data product allows for these characteristics to be kept in the data product. That is something that would have disappeared normally in a data warehouse reality, where you would have to harmonize data to such a degree that the domain-specific characteristics would have been deleted. And so data products are domain-specific, meaning that they offer a wider array of use cases for the consumers downstream. Furthermore, data products adhere to a set of principles, a main set of principles. For example, FAIR. FAIR meaning findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. I will not go too much into depth about that because you can find many excellent tutorials about the FAIR principles online. But basically, think of your data product as something that you need to be able to discover, use, connect to, and use again in other contexts. It's really like a product, an ideal vision of a product. And then finally, you should take into account that to use data products, you need data contracts, because data contracts really are the key that unlocks the consumption of data products. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so how do we define a data contract? Put very simply, the data contract is an agreement about how a data product can be used. So whenever a data product is created by someone that owns data in a company, then in order to consume that data, the data product owner must make an agreement with the data consumer. And that agreement is called a data contract. Put very simply, a data contract is something that lists the specifications of how a data product can be consumed. Let me go to the fourth point on the slide here. A data contract should cover all aspects of consumption. This means that a data contract should both take account of security, of the technical details in terms of how data is delivered, also the personal identifiable information, and obviously the data contract should also contain a description of the data, simply defining what kind of data that is being consumed. That is all listed in the data contract so that data products can be used in a way that is speedy and simple. Finally, the fifth point is that data contracts are machine readable and they can have a human readable visualization too. This is quite important. Data contracts are technical documents, so they should be machine readable. They should be computational. But that does not exclude a human readable version of the document. Obviously, books and thinkers in the space of data contracts and data products differ a little bit on how to exactly architect this. But what you need to keep in mind, what you need to remember, is that a data contract has two dimensions, a machine readable and potentially a human readable version as well. But it is not, and that is what you need to really remember, it is not only a human readable document. It needs to be machine readable so that you can compute, automate, and scale your data product architecture with computer commands and not simply human activities, human tasks. That is very important. And that brings me to my third point, in fact, that data products can have multiple data contracts. It's very important. Data products do not only have one data contract, they have multiple. And what I mean by this is that for each use case of a data product, you will be able to define a new data contract. If we, for example, delve into the technical details, some use cases may not depend on fast delivery of data. In that case, perhaps avoid fast delivery of data simply because that can put source systems on too much pressure. It can be very expensive and not needed. So that's just one particular example of why you would need two different data contracts. It could also be in terms of who are allowed to see what kind of data in the company. If a data product contains highly confidential data in some parts of its total body of data, then that confidential data may be needed to be excluded in some use cases, which is completely fine. Then you create a different data contract specifying what part of the data contract is agreed upon in terms of being consumed by the data consumer. So that's the data contract and data product architecture. This brings me to my third slide, which really is a high-level description of the shift left movement. Shift left is an idea of putting data contracts first. Guillaume, our Chief Product Officer, will dive more into this in a bit. What I want to show you with this diagram is that all companies have hybrid multi-cloud data infrastructures. We believe very strongly in this in Actian, and so we take account of that in our architecture and our roadmap and our thinking. But from this hybrid multi-cloud data infrastructure, we generate data products, and they are consumed by data consumers. In that consumption, data contracts are created. Now, what this allows us to do is coined as shift left. The shift left movement really takes all the data governance aspects out of the many use cases where data is used downstream. This could be in analytics, it could be in data sharing use cases, but it doesn't really matter. What matters is the amount of use cases. An enormous amount of data governance tasks would have to be done downstream in all those use cases if we did not have data contracts, because the task of the data protection officer or chief security information officer or people working with data quality, all of that would have to be repeated again and again downstream because there would not have been a data contract. But thanks to data contracts, you can do that upstream, and that is shift left. You minimize the task of data governance by shifting left. So you should simply deploy your data as you deploy your code. You should really shift left and apply a data contract thinking so that you avoid repetitive tasks downstream. And with that, I hand it over to my great colleague, Guillaume.
So thank you, Ole, for explaining a little bit about what data products and data contracts are and how they can be very fundamentals for building modern data governance frameworks. In this section, I'm going to dig a little bit more into how we deliver on data products in the Data Intelligence Platform Spring 25 release. I would like to enter a little bit more into the specifics of a data product and what a data product technically is. So I already defined it as a self-contained set of data that is self-governed and can expose this data to various kind of users. Technically, there are many ways to actually implement a data product. But the fundamentals of data products contain the same components. So first of all, you must think of a data product as really data that is containerized and that will encapsulate various ways to communicate with the rest of the world, depending, of course, of the role of responsibilities of the different people interacting with the data product. The way for data product to interact with the rest of the world are called ports. So you have various kind of ports in a data product. The most important one is the output port. The output port is how consumers will interact with the data product. So you can have various output ports attached to a data product, and each output port will be associated with the data contract. We will be back on that. But the output ports are not the only ports that you find in your data product. So in your data product, you will typically find internally the architecture of the data product. So that the application, the infrastructure, the storage, the processing that is necessary to manipulate, process, and store the data that is managed by the data product. So the internal structure of the data product is completely open. It can be a complete data warehouse, it could be just a file, a data lake, it can be a data vault database, it can be a relational database, it can even be some raw data stored somewhere in the cloud. So the internal structure of the data product is where you actually maintain the data that is managed by the data product. And then on top of this data, you will add output ports for consumers to actually compute and consume the data provided by the data product. And you will find other kind of ports. Control ports are usually used by the ops teams to start, stop, control the lifecycle, the runtime lifecycle of the data products. Input ports are an important piece, of course, of a data product. A data product usually does not stand alone. It has to consume data from other sources. Those sources can be output ports of our data product, or for what we call source-aligned data products. The input port will likely be operational systems that integrate the data in the data product to deliver them to consumers. And then you will find other kind of ports like discovery port is the way for the data product to register into a data catalog or metadata management system, so it can be discovered by end users. And observability ports are used as well by the ops to control that the data product is behaving the way it is expected to. So those various components are usually grouped in a data product descriptor. The descriptor will contain various items, an info object. The info object is related to information about the data product itself. So it might contain ownership information, descriptions, of course, but it also domain ownership and other contact information for the people that discover this data product to be able to contact the owners of the various aspects of data product. And then you will have two other kind of components in the data product. Internal components are usually encapsulated completely into the data product and are not visible from the exterior, except, of course, for the people that build and manage the data product. And the interface components provide the various ports, among which, of course, the output ports that will be exposed to the rest of the world. So you really need to think of the data product as an encapsulated data with output ports to deliver the data to consumers. Technically, the data product is mostly a concept. So you can actually create a data product on top of any existing data, or you can create a data product from scratch by building the data product descriptor providing the various contracts and various ports, packaging it together, and of course, delivering it and deploying it to your data platform. So the data product can be either completely encapsulated. So I would say that the target state for the data product would be to have a containerized data product that hosts its own runtime, but you can also create data products on top of any existing architecture. So as I said, in a data product, you will find output ports, and those output ports are the way for consumers to consume the data exposed and managed by the data product. Each output port is associated with one and only one data contract, and the data contract will contain all the information related to consuming the data of the data product through these output ports. So it will, of course, contain the data model. Once again, the data model is not the data model of the data product, it's the data model of the output port. So it defines the schema of the data that will be delivered by this output port. The output port can be a SQL engine, of course, if you're exposing your data through a SQL engine for querying, for online querying your data. But it can also be an API, it could be a stream like a Kafka topic, or whatever protocol you want to expose. It could be a file download or whatever. But whatever the format and the protocol used to consume the data, the contract will contain the model the data is supposed to follow. So data semantics is an important piece of information as well, and it provides information, the description of the data model. In Actian implementation, the semantic is not directly included into the data contract, but is linked to a business glossary and ontology that is managed in the intelligence platform. So you usually don't provide the description directly in the contract, but provide a reference to a definition that is managed in the ontology. Infrastructure is an important piece of the data contract. You can define the infrastructure, so what are the resource requirements for your data product, so that when you deploy the data product, resources are automatically allocated and can be dynamically allocated, of course, if you need elasticity and more and deal with more workload on your data product. So that's typically the parts that are more technical, and then you will find more business and governance related information. Typically SLAs. So SLAs are usually objectives in terms of quality that the data producers guarantees on this data. So this is typically where you will find objectives in terms of availability, freshness, retention, frequency of updates, and so on. So that's all the characteristics that the data producer will enforce in the data products. Quality checks are typically the business expectations that are enforced by the data product. So that's a little bit different from SLAs. SLAs usually concern some generic metrics on your data, while quality checks are very specific and express business expectation on top of the data. So all the checks that are performed inside the data product should be documented in data contract, so that the consumers, of course, know what they can expect from the data they are consuming. And then you can add other aspects of governance policies in your contract, typically access policies or security policies that will be used both to automate access control on the data product, or just provide really information for consumers to understand how they can request access to the output port and consume the data from the data product. And as data contracts are meant to support all governance aspects, there is room for custom attributes in the contract, so that you can implement extra aspects of your governance through data contracts. So really the idea in the data contract is to concentrate all the information that will cover the requirements for all the various stakeholders around the data, both people operating the data, producing the data, consuming the data, and of course governing the data and ensuring risk management or compliance. There are different standards for managing data contracts. The two most used are Open Data Contract and Data Contract Specification. I will not enter into all the details, of course, of those implementation. In DINIA, we support both formats, and both formats actually contains the same kind of information, even if they are not structured exactly the same way. In both standards, the data contract format is a YAML file that will contain those information, schema, data quality, roles, service agreements, infrastructure, contact, and so on. So they are not organized exactly the same way, but this is the same information that is described in both descriptors. And before entering into a short demo of how data products and data contracts supported in Actian Data Intelligence Platform, let's just remember that what we have implemented in this first release is a data contract first approach. In this approach, you create a data product together with the data contract in your source code. So typically, a data product will be a Git repository or any kind of repository where you manage source code. And in this repository, you will find the code for one single data product. Part of this code, of course, will be the scripts used to ingest and transform the data delivered by the data product. Some of there will be code to instruct about the resources. There will be DDL, maybe some data, some quality checks, and so on. So this is what you put in your data product. And together with this source code, you will also find the descriptor for the data product and the contract for each output port of the data product. So the way to work, the workflow for building a data contract first data product is actually to build this source code that will be the data product, and then to integrate it into your CI/CD tool. So when you build the data product, part of the CI/CD tool will take the source code, of course, compile whatever needs to compile, check and control the validity of the data contract, and then we'll deploy the descriptors to the data intelligence platform. So the data product descriptor and all the data contracts will go to the intelligence platform, and all the physical artifacts, the DAG, the scripts, the DDL, data, whatever you have in your data product will go to the data platform. And then the last step, once both the descriptors, the contracts, and the assets have been deployed, then the data intelligence platform will start monitoring the data contract lifecycle throughout its runtime. So start making some active metadata management. So for instance, quality rules might be deployed to an observability tool, quality objectives as well, so that they can be monitored real time, and any drift between the objectives set in the contract and what is actually occurring in the operational platform will raise an alert that can be, of course, then remediated in various ways depending on your own process. So the data first approach really means that you start with building this data product as a new data product that will contain data product descriptors and data contract, and will be automatically deployed both to your data platform and to the data intelligence platform. All right, let's jump quickly into a short demo to showcase a little bit how data products are integrated in the data intelligence platform. So let's go into a short demo. So here I am in one of the two user interfaces for the data intelligence platform. So data intelligence platform provides two user interfaces. One is for the data stewards, it's called the Studio, and the other one is for data consumers. It is called the Explorer. So this is where you deliver marketplace, discovery, and consumption experience to end users. So here we are in the landing page. I will go directly in the marketplace. The marketplace is where various data domains can decide to publish some of their assets to share them in the rest of the organization. And as you can see, we now have a data product item type that is managed in the catalog. We can filter on this data product, and we will find all the data products that have been put in the marketplace. So we have various of them. We could filter on various criteria, but let's just get into this customer 360 profile data product. On data products, you will find the structure we already have discussed. So you will find the input ports. The input ports are the way for the system to understand where the data that the data product provides is coming from. And you will also find the output ports. So here I have 3 output ports but with various protocols to consume the data. So one is an API output port, another one is SQL output port, and the last one is a Kafka topic, so it's a stream output port. You can use, of course, filtering capabilities to just display the output ports you want to see, and otherwise you will enter into the output port and find all the information about the contract, the data sets that constitute the output port with the structure associated with it, the glossary items, and the other semantic descriptions that you can provide directly in the contract, the data model for the output port. This one is very simple. It is a single data set, and you will also find data quality indicators. If you have put some data quality metrics in your data contract, you will be able to monitor those data metrics. The View 364 allows you to explore the connection of your data product with the rest of your data architecture, especially through input ports and output ports. I will not dig into everything related to output ports. It was really to illustrate how data products are now integrated in the Explorer, can be put in the marketplace and consumed by end users. In this spring release, we have launched the contract first approach, where you build your data product outside of Zinnia or outside the data intelligence platform and deploy your data product to your data platform and to the intelligence platform. The next step for us is actually to provide another flow. Of course, the contract first approach is somehow a greenfield approach, where you are requested to rebuild your data architecture with data contracts. To ease this process, we will, by the end of the year, deliver another workflow to manage data contracts. This is data first approach. In the data first approach, the idea is that you start with what you already have. So you will start with the data intelligence platform, scanning your data platform to find out what's in there, and based on that, we'll suggest or let you select what are data products or logical data products in your existing architecture. Based on this knowledge, we will generate the data contract, and the data contract itself will be re-injected into the data intelligence platform to start monitoring the data that is now under contract. Of course, once you have generated the contract, you can add more rules to it. You can add your security policies, you can add more semantics, you can add more classifications, you can add more quality objectives or quality rules, and all of them will be automatically enforced. At a later stage, you can, of course, extract the data contract from the data intelligence platform and rebuild your data product as a self-contained product and source code to redeploy it to the data intelligence platform and move from the data first approach to the contract first approach.
Next up is a client of ours, Statnet, that we are setting the spotlight on. From Statnet, we have 2 speakers that I have worked with personally, and I really admire their work, as you will hear in a minute. First of all, we have Lilian. Lilian is Head of Data Governance and Information Architecture at Statnet. And Lilian was one of the very, very early adopters of data products, as you will hear in just a while. Inga is Vice President and Information Governance Expert at Statnet. He has worked primarily on building stakeholder management, stakeholder relationships on this quite innovative agenda inside Statnet, which is a big organization. And with that, let's jump to what Statnet is actually all about. Statnet is an energy provider in Norway, managing a very big physical infrastructure of cables and transformer stations capable of distributing electricity all over Norway. And Statnet had a business challenge. They needed to enhance information governance due to the increasing complexity of managing their infrastructure to ensure reliable electricity operations. The solution that Statnet opted for was the Actian Data Intelligence Platform and a decentralized data management approach to really help foster a user-focused and well-documented information product practice inside StatNet. So the benefits of this approach is improved data governance, streamlined discovery and access of data across the organization, and finally, faster and scalable analytics and innovation also across the organization due to a smoother setup. So let's hear about that.
Hi, Ole.
Hi, Lillian.
Hi,
Such
Ole.
a pleasure. Hi, Inga. It's such a pleasure to see you again, both of you. It's been a while since we exchanged views on how to build data products, data controls. But anyway, let me start off with that because when I did a workshop with you at StatNet, I remember that one of the first things I learned was that you do not really call data products. You think of it as a little differently, or you name it a little differently, and you think of it perhaps a little differently. But so Lillian, to you perhaps, how do you think of data products and StatNet?
Well, we started with the what we call information products almost 6 years ago. And at that time, all the articles we could find on the internet was on data products, were only either discussing domain internal reporting or data sharing between applications and business solutions for operational purposes, consisting of minimal data sets and closely tied to performance with the context clearly defined by the functions receiving the data, which was kind of a limited definition on what we were trying to do. Most of it was discussed more like how technology-driven integrations often are described even still today. So for us, data products that were too purpose-specific, trimmed, and confined to a single domain was difficult when it came to assure quality and also not so well suited for functional as a foundation for analytical processes. So we decided then to distinguish our effort from what we could find on the internet as information products, just to make sure that we didn't have misunderstandings in the huge project that we were trying to start using this for. We wanted our products to support multiple purposes and to be used across domains and easily adapt to analytical purposes. And also that it should be created in the areas where we have the quality assurance can be done, and also so the information products were owned in the area where it actually was created. And also it usually was created by operational processes and not by, at that time, not ready for analytical purposes. But we wanted to create information products in the operational areas of the company in a way that it could be easily used as a foundation for analytical purposes. So not to have misunderstandings with the information you could find on the internet, we started to use a different term. However, now,
I was thinking about that. What's the status here? Wow.
Because as you know, it has been a huge change on the use of these terms, or the papers have changed on the internet. What you can find now, I think data products has become closer and closer to what we then defined as information products. So now, when I go and look at different papers now, they discuss actually the same problems that we discussed then. And it seems like the distance between information products in our company and data products in general actually becomes more and more close to each other.
Very much agree.
Yes. So that's the reason why we called it information products. Now we have to consider changing the name to data products, which is kind of also a problem, because after so many years we really struggled with this, and now after 6 years everybody in the company is discussing information products. So if we do change the name,
Well, I think, Lillian, being a first mover is always something that comes with a price, right?
Yeah.
I enjoyed working with you during that great workshop we had, because I could sense that you had some quite innovative ideas quite early in terms of enterprises working with data at your scale. Ingard, a question for you in that regard. Like, considering decentralization of data, how did information/data products really tie to your data strategy at the time?
Well, our strategy was to try to liberate the data from the systems in which they were residing, and making them available to everyone in the company. So in that sense, it kind of it aligned very well with our strategy. But I think it's important to understand that this is not so much a conceptual thing or a technological thing. It's a huge cultural change that is ongoing in the company. And as Lilian said, this has taken an awful lot of time, and it's still ongoing.
Yeah, so I definitely understand that like the communicative aspect of explaining such a new architecture or such a new mindset is very difficult. To expand a little bit on that, have you seen any uptake in data contract or data sharing agreement thinking in your organization? Is it something that you have used to ensure data quality and reliability of the usage of data? Have these products been used in use cases, and how did that go about?
We actually incorporated a lot of metadata, not a lot, but some central metadata into the information product definitions, and some of them functioning some kind of like a contract. For instance, we have this security metadata where we are discussing. Then we have security class, integrity, availability, and preservation time, which is kind of somewhat close to what you would put in a contract.
Absolutely.
And several other metadata also actually function as a contract, and also the information that we add to the product will give directions on how to use it in the descriptions and so on. So we kind of incorporated a lot of, especially for internal use, we incorporated a lot of the contract issues into the metadata, making them functioning quite like a contract, actually.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess coming back to you having some really splendid ideas quite early in the, like, you can say, the decentralization, what was perhaps most frequently called the data mesh movement some time ago. It's obvious that you encounter a lot of difficulties, a lot of problems or challenges at the technical level, right? But that certainly speaks to a data contract reality, what you just mentioned, Lilian. Ingard, I wanted to revert back to you, because I have a follow-up question in terms of communication. You said that it was to a very high degree a communication task, explaining the decentralization of data management, data governance, with the introduction of information products / data products. So I want to know what worked. I mean, how did you actually go about communicating it? Lilian refers to a reality where everyone in the organization have now understood the idea, and I would be curious to know, like, what actually worked in terms of communication. Can you speak a bit to that, Ingard?
Yes, I think we have an information governance system. And the system consists of, broadly speaking, 4 parts. The data catalog is one of them. And then we have the concept of information products. We have domains.
Mhm.
And we have roles in the organizations. What has worked the best is actually when we have started to populate the catalog with products.
Mhm.
When people have been able to see what this is and what it can be used for, so that they understand the benefit. When at an earlier stage, when we try to explain all this by either writing documents, making requirements, just PowerPoint, the concepts have been very difficult to kind of an average person in the business to understand.
Yes.
So I think now that we have a functioning catalog, we have now more than 700 information products in the catalog, which
Oh,
is
wow. That is
yeah.
such a pleasure to hear. I was like, when I did the workshop with you, I can't remember if it's 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, but that is a real pleasure to hear. That's a lot of products.
Yeah, and too many. But,
Okay, yeah,
but
but
now
that
we
makes
can
sense. No,
start.
but that makes sense. Yes.
Yeah, so now we need to start tidying up, and that's where that's when you can see the real benefit of having a catalog, because there are probably many products that are similar, maybe even the same, but we don't know because they are not documented in the same way, and we can start improving on the descriptions and the metadata quality. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, that's a very good point. It's a rare stage to be at in terms of data product maturity, to have too many data products that are so that are so many users wanting to use the platform that multiple, perhaps identical data products have actually been created. But that is a privilege, I think, in a data governance or data management world, to find yourself in such a position, right? Because many are struggling with that like very, very difficult takeoff situation where you have to basically have to explain that there is a market with products on that you can consume. And if people are not used to that in an organization, then it takes a bit of time for them to understand, okay, this is a new kind of architecture where really consuming data is way simpler than calling one team and just waiting and waiting and waiting. I wanted to ask how you scale this architecture, because that is what everyone asks. But actually, you have already delivered the answer, and you have successfully scaled your architecture of data products that you call information products, at least still in StatNet. So I want to know, instead of how you scale your architecture, how do you trim it? What's your plan for the next 6, 12, 18 months to trim the architecture that you have created, both of you?
Maybe I can start, and Lilian, that's a very good question, actually. So we have created reports that show to the information owners the status of their information products. So to what extent they have a complete set of metadata, for instance, and then we are using these reports to kind of work with them to help them improving their data.
And it works, I hope.
Yes, but and also you have to, coming back to what I just said about culture, there is a lot to learn for a lot of people. So it doesn't scale automatically, this. I mean,
sure, agreed.
We don't want to kind of leave an impression that this is an automatic process. That's not the case.
No.
But the snowball has started rolling, and hopefully it will continue to roll by itself. But it needs to be pushed by us. Yeah.
Okay. That's good to hear. I hope I can visit you again soon in Oslo. It was a pleasure last time. Well, but that is for a different talk. Lilian, do you have any concluding remarks?
Well, first of all, you're very welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it would be a pleasure.
But what Inger said about these overviews or KPIs or health indicators, call it what you want. We have this overview of it really started a process, and also because we had this information governance in place with roles as information owners and data stewards. It really has been a maturity travel to get where we are today. It has been, like Inger said, not easy. It has been hands-on help. It has been coursing. It has been, guidance, and it has been discussions, and it has been a lot of work. But the great thing is now that when they see this overview of their domain of information, they became even more active in wanting to help cleaning this up when it comes to duplicate information products and so on. And it gave a whole total different gear of being active. So we are now working with one of the largest domains on how to proceed in doing this kind of work together with them, which is kind of interesting and exciting. So we should tell you more about this another time.
Yeah, I would love to. And that's I think that's what happens once you like get into the weeds of data and information architecture, right? You want to make something really splendid that really works and that really expresses the logic of your organization. Okay, Inga and Lillian, thank you so much for your insights. I guess this concludes our small talk, but this was really interesting. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
us.
Thank you for joining. Thank you for taking the time. My name is Ole Olesen-Bagneux. I'm the Chief Evangelist of Actian. I'm an Rally author, publishing my second book in a month from now, Fundamentals of Metadata Management. My first book was called The Enterprise Data Catalog, and I'm joined by our product visionary, the Chief Product Officer, Guillaume Bodet.
Yes, thank you, Ole. So I'm the Chief Product Officer at Actian. Former to that, I was one of the co-founders of a company called Zinea, that is a software vendor for SaaS data discovery platform that got acquired by Actian 9 months ago. And I'm now overseeing all the product portfolio from Actian in this space of data intelligence and data management digitalization.
Thank you, Guillaume. And then perhaps maybe we should go around the table with the guests on this round table.
I'm Peter Jackson. I'm Global Head of Data Management at Schroders, Global Asset Manager. I've been here 10 months. Prior to that, I was Chief Data and Technology Officer in an AI startup in London. And before that, I was Group Director of Data Science and Chief Data Officer of the investment management business. I've also been a CDO of a water company and of the pensions regulator. And Ole, great to hear your news. I've published 4 books about data.
Oh, great. Yes, who was that mentioned we would have something to talk about, Peter? Anyway, but
one you may have heard of is the Chief Data Officer's Playbook.
Oh, nice. It's an honor. Thank you for attending.
Great to be with you today.
So it's myself, Mert Stout. I mean, I'm not going to follow the books thing. I haven't written any books, but I've read many, so I don't know if that counts. And also, even though Peter's written 4 books, I think you still have the more snazzy job title as well, which is Chief Evangelist. So, my name's Mert Stout. I'm Director of Data and AI at British Gas. Only been in the job for about a year, so there's still a lot of storming and forming going on. Before that, I was Chief Data Officer, one of the largest private mental health organizations in the UK. And before that, I had a consultancy job where I worked for investment banks, financial services, all sorts. So one key thing that always sticks out for me that are varied industries that I've got experience in, but actually the challenges and the problems that I'm facing, pretty much the same across all of them. There's no such thing as a unique challenge for a particular industry. I feel like in data and AI, it's pretty common across the board. So yeah, pleasure to be here.
Hi, my name is James Lewis. I'm the CDO of By Rotation. So we're a fifth fashion rental company. So we essentially think Airbnb, but for clothes. The idea is all of these people, often women with fantastic wardrobes, they're having to sell them off on like the Vinted and Vestiaire, can rent them out, turn them into another income stream. We are very much on the other end of the spectrum in terms of size and scale versus sort of a Schroders or a British Gas, but interested to tell our side of the story as well.
Thank you, James. I think like to kick this conversation off, it's obvious that we're talking with very, very seasoned data leaders. So I think we should open the questions a bit more to the point in terms of what do you think about what we have recently called data mesh? Perhaps we're just talking about it as data decentralization. How do you see your organization adapting to those patterns? What are the challenges and the way forward? Anyone wants to start?
Yeah, I'm quite happy to pick that one up. I think data mesh is something that a lot of people have tried for a long time. Mm-hmm. But I only think it was when it was realized that it was a conceptual architecture rather than a real physical architecture that people really understood what we were all trying to do. And then that comes back and it centers on data governance. It's all about data governance. And data governance for me is ownership, is catalog, is data quality, and data lineage. If you have those four things, then you can actually start to enable data mesh, which can be really good for a business because it can lead to value and outcomes really quickly. And that is what we're all trying to get. Not an easy journey, but if you put those things in place, and it does take a lot of rigor to do it, as I'm sure Mert's going to talk about, yeah, I think it's a great approach. But
thank you, Peter, for sharing that perspective. I certainly agree. Mert, would you follow?
Do you know, when you said that it's a conceptual model, it's amazing. That sounds so simple, but that has been the crux of the challenge that I've experienced. And the amount of architects that I get start drawing TDAs and all these high-level and low-level designs trying to articulate what data mesh actually is, but that was actually further complicating the challenges. So I've got experience in a few areas. So we've gone full centralized in the past, where actually there was just so many cottage industry and data silos everywhere, where actually you need to have a little bit of governance and control. And the way I've found it helpful is almost you centralize a few bits initially, get those processes, procedures, policies, best ways of working, standards, practices, tools and technologies set, then you start decentralizing. I've actually myself made a mistake where I've decentralized before we had our house in order, and then it becomes chaos and chaotic. I think that clear governance is so important. Like you said, the lineage, and again, they're buzzwords, but they are so hard to actually implement. To actually get clear lineage and glossaries and governance and clear common understanding across the business of what data means what is actually harder than it sounds, to get people aligned. But for me, it's that mindset to ensure that not only are you decentralized, but you need to make sure you have the skills and capabilities in the decentralized models to do something with what you're giving them. So rather than just give them all these beautiful things, if they don't have the capabilities and the data fluency levels to do something with that data mesh capabilities, then actually you might as well just keep it centralized and just get the capabilities from the central part. So I think we cannot underestimate the need for training and development for our businesses, for the people that are going to be consuming through those meshes to actually generate value.
Very much agree. James, do you feel like chipping in?
So yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, we're quite a different end of the scale. So we are still one, maybe two pizza size team. So we're very much just getting ourselves ready for getting big enough that this is going to be valid. So we have to be quite lean, because we've got a whole feature backlog like you wouldn't believe. But we are trying to lay the foundations for this. There's a few things that are driving that. We're just growing quite quickly within our native territory, which is the UK. We've also got a couple of international expansions. So we've fairly recently gone up to the States, which has started to put a little bit more pressure on things like understanding business logic, on needing something more like data as a product approach. And then we're also opening up in the UAE, which brings a whole bunch of additional complexities around how we handle interactions to consider locals versus non-locals. So where we're at the moment is laying the foundations for that type of approach. And then we're probably going to start needing more of this over the next 12 to 18 months as we scale.
Ole, if I could add something to what Mertz was saying, because it's really important about the trading piece that he was talking about. And I don't think it's so much the obvious skills as people capable of building Power BI, data visualizations, or even machine learning, or even some of the more exciting things around artificial intelligence. I think that certainly organizations of the scale of us have people who are very, very capable of doing that. It's these new skills around being a data steward and being a data product owner and being a data domain owner and things like that, terms they've never heard of before. And we can't expect, to Merce's point exactly, we cannot expect people to do this without support, without training, without explanation. And we've got to fight that pushback. Well, this is just something else I've got to do. So you either increase the headcount to get people who are specialists to do that. And around product owners, you might, because that's a very specialist skill with experience. But we've got to make it in such a way where it's feasible for people to do this along with what they're otherwise doing. Now, in many cases, people are already fulfilling these roles already. So it's a matter of formalizing them and making them realize that they are doing those roles. But this is the way, and this is what it means.
I very much agree.
Just to add to that, we've got the same problem right now. Actually, it's is this as well as my day job, or is this my day job? And actually, different organizations, even different departments in the same business may differ. You may get a commercial team that actually needs someone fully dedicated, whereas you may get another team that they probably could do it alongside their day job. But you usually find if it's alongside their day job, it's always the second priority. Sorry, I did not have time to do my data stewardship duties because I've got a day job to do. So how can you then take that seriously? You end up either not doing it very well, or you end up assuming responsibilities back from the centralized position anyway, which is fully defeating this decentralized approach that you're going for. One last thing. I know we started off with a question saying data mesh. Language is so important. That means nothing to anyone in my business. The word mesh, they just start thinking of all sorts of weird networking analogies they've probably put in their Wi-Fi system at home. How do we actually make this land? What does decentralized actually mean? Well, we're actually trying to empower our business users to get to the crux of the problems through analytics themselves, where we are empowering. I think that keyword empowering is really important, and I'm trying to avoid things like data mesh that only we really care about. They don't.
Yeah, no, I very much agreed. I think the word itself will go away. But anyway, that's a bet I'm making with a lot of people in the data community. I think many of the ideas behind data mesh are great, and they will stay. The idea of data as a product, obviously, as we're talking about right now, is an idea that will stay. And so, Mertz, like following up on exactly that point, to what extent, if any, have you experienced talking about data products, data domain ownership, as you mentioned, Peter, as something that is more easy understandable by a line of business? Is that something that tends to create more understanding in the business?
I think there's half and half. I think in some areas that's led to more confusions because people thought everything and anything about data was just the dashboard that they see at the end of it. Realize just how much is involved in everything around that dashboard from the whole product concept. So a dashboard is showing a wrong number. The dashboard is wrong. They don't care about the fact that we've got external data feeds that are coming in that haven't got the robust quality metrics or the data stewardship on the shop floor. It's almost very much a data analytics and AI teams problem. So you get the people that need to be involved in that product ownership. And I see product ownership as not just a data analytics and AI function. I think it's a data product that's owned by multiple facets of the business. Could be someone on the shop floor, could be that dedicated data steward, it could be someone from legal. It's a combined effort. But when it comes to a dashboard, it's quite easily perceived as that's a tech thing. They'll fix it. And they completely absolve themselves of the responsibility of actually having a hand in helping fix it. So the message has been quite easy to land to say this is more than just the front visual aspect that you see. It's all of these things involved in it. The challenge has been getting people to step up and actually be accountable for the certain areas that they still perceive as a tech thing. You get some people that are like, look, I get it. I have industry relationships with our external data providers. I will go and talk to them to fix that dashboard that your team has built. You get a few individuals, whereas others are like, dashboard, nothing to do with me. So I think it's a big cultural change you need to go through before people really accept of what a data product actually means. Otherwise, it's just 2 words on the page.
Getting that line of demarcation, because you talked to me there, Simon said about three phases. For me, we have the data stewards who are responsible for the multiple different data feeds or original data sources that are feeding into a data product that you build the data product from. Then you have the data product owner who's responsible for the product and will talk to the stewards if its product is going sour, if its quality is falling off, or it can't see why feeds have changed or things like that. Then the consumers just sit on the far side who are consuming through Power BI. And so it's not their dashboard that's wrong, it's the data products that's wrong. So you're absolutely right, Merce. But I think, and I'm going to be controversial here, I think that the whole world in that is going to change, because we're starting to put LLMs on top of our data products, on top of the schemas for our products. So business users who want a number 90% of the time, how many clients have we got? They just want to ask. And so they just type the prompt, how many clients have we got, or how many new clients have we got today, or how many clients have churned today, or what's our assets under management. Just type that in, it writes the SQL, they can change the prompt, they can update it, they can just run it. Don't need a Power BI dashboard. And I think that's where we're going to really see that separation of it's the data product that's wrong, it's not the dashboard that's wrong.
I mean, you may still get the people saying it's the LLM that's wrong. You can just see it happening, right? You can say, oh, it's Copilot that's wrong. Therefore.
Well, in fact, if the LLM's hallucinating, then it is the data that's wrong.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes. Guillaume, maybe we could tie a comment to this in terms of the product roadmap. I don't know if you feel like chipping in, but we quite precisely match exactly that problem in our roadmap.
Yeah,
and if we can...
this is actually a side aspect of the data products and data contracts is that they also provide a bounded context that is very suitable for training a highly reliable agent that is able to understand a small chunk of data. I mean, it will not understand everything, but at least we can make sure that we have a clear life cycle for managing a context that is suitable for an LLM to provide accurate results for user prompts. So this is actually what we are currently building, is to integrate into the data product, optionally, of course, an agent that will know the contracts and that will be able to answer questions on the limited scope that is issued to the data product. And then the next step, of course, would be to provide higher level agents that are able to coordinate with various small agents to answer broader question or larger scope question or cross concern questions. So this is actually at the very heart of that roadmap, is also to leverage the data products and data contract lifecycle to manage the context for LLM-based agents.
Yes, I felt like handing the mic to you, Guillaume, in this regard, because I think it's exactly right that I think, Peter, it's a nice way of framing it, that we will soon begin seeing a discussion about data products being wrong and not the reports being wrong. I like that.
Yeah.
I think that I will remember that exact way of phrasing it, because I think it speaks very clearly to the change that we are witnessing.
And actually we are coming late in the analytics space, so we will probably bypass the dashboard step and aim directly to natural language analytics.
I love called the DICWA pyramid: data, information, knowledge, and wisdom. Because if the dashboard's wrong, you're playing in the knowledge space. You're trying to fix it up there. Well, that is just sitting on top of the data. You have to fix the data, the collected, curated, and contextualized data, which is the product. Don't start too high. You've got to get the underneath piece right.
The iceberg theory, isn't it, again? I mean, that iceberg image has been around for donkeys of years, where you've got the little dashboard at the top and everything else underneath the sea level.
Yeah.
I mean, you could apply that same analogy to the data product side of things as well, right? because of everything else that's actually underpinning what goes into it. And I think, we probably can do more to be transparent on showing the business what goes into it. So actually, okay, you've got this dashboard that says 10. Did you know how that 10 is actually generated? Not just from a lineage point of view of where that number is coming from, but the hoops that the product has to jump through to give you a 10, and make it very clear when that 10, if it should be 8, well, that's the thing that's failed in the pipeline. These are the people that need to be stepping up to help. And I really like the fact that we say data product has an issue, because then you've just got the whole ownership cycle to step up to help, rather than just that one person called Greg in the corner who's trying to fix everybody's dashboards.
I've been that guy. Haven't we all? Okay, so to wrap up with a last question here, I would be curious, James, you've alluded to a couple of times that this architecture is a bit out in the future for you. You're too small as a company, if I understood that correctly.
That's pretty fair.
Okay, yeah. So in a smaller setting, obviously decentralization of data is something that is of less urgency. Simply, some say it's because of centralized teams still working efficiently, not queuing up too many people on the provider and the consumer side in terms of making data available. Is that something that you, to a certain extent, recognize?
Absolutely. I mean, fundamentally, we can still get everybody pizza size, right? We can get everyone around a large, or depending on the appetite of our team, 2 large pizzas. What's driving scale and complexity for us is a couple of things. First of all, we've got very strong user growth in our home market. I mentioned a little bit earlier kind of the international expansions, and that's where we start to see it would be nice if we'd maybe we've been reasonably proactive, but if we'd been more proactive on that side. That form of decentralization, it drives some interesting challenges from a business side. So if we take States or UAE, both of those you want to measure engagement in a different way. You're going to need different metrics. You can't just sort of take, the dashboards we had for our home market in the same stage of growth and measure things the same way. We've learned so much more since then. So even at this very small scale where we still have, it's not a people challenge, the diversity of geographies and needs are starting to push us along that same pathway.
Do you have any, in terms of scaling and in terms of size, would you find yourself in a different reality than James? And are you addressing it with decentralization, or is it still too early days?
So I've got a new coin. Do you know how the classic center of excellence model? And I think that model's worked for me in the past, but actually, if you're going through a decentralization approach, that quite quickly implies that anyone outside of that center of excellence model is by de facto not excellent. There's a bit of an inferiority complex that can develop, because you're almost putting too much pressure on yourself, firstly, as the center of excellence. We do everything excellent here. We're going to then just spit out the data so you can do whatever you probably want to do with it. That's definitely not on the excellent level. So we're trying to change the term, and we're actually helpfully or maybe unhelpfully keeping the COE letters, but we've coined it as the community of enablement.
Oh, yeah, that's way better. Way better. I will for that.
And there's a healthy level of cringe as well, which I like, and that's what we're doing. We are a community of individuals. I was about to say data experts, but even that, actually, you can have data experts that sit in the decentralized model, right?
I absolutely love that. I'm sorry
we're a team of individuals that are getting together with a common purpose, which is we need to set the bedrock of the centralized analytics function to provide our decentralized experts the tools, the capabilities, the governance, the ring sense, the safety to do their day job. Now, that day job could vary. It could literally be someone that just wants all the data to create their dashboards. It may be someone that wants raw data to create data science models. It may be someone that doesn't want to do anything. They just want a dashboard that's ready-made for them, and they just want to see the number 10. That differs based on the different context. But for us, we want to enable them to do whatever they need to do. Now, there's a limit, there's a line, because if they wanted to create their own data siloed estate that's completely different to what we've built, there's challenges in there. You could get multiple sources of the truth. That's something that we would have to work with. How can we still give you your outcomes without creating another centralized repository? Because then what you get is 10 centralized data functions in each team with no connection to this community of enablement. So I think sometimes it's case by case basis, but for me, we're there to enable, not to dictate. And I think that's the biggest difference between that centralized model. And I've actually worked and even led a centralized model before, and it is painful and it's tiring. We can never answer all the questions that the business has, and then do two things. One, they stop asking, or two, they stop asking because they're just doing it themselves anyway.
Yes,
so we keep that
exactly.
enablement side ticking along. So that's my challenge over the next 12 to 18 months, which is I walked into an organization where they were having a lot of siloed data activities. We've created a centralized community of enablement model. We may have to do things that's not get us in the best books of our stakeholders. We may have to sweep in first before we then decentralize out. But I think that's the right thing to do. If we just keep things going as they are, the big challenges are not going to be addressed. So we may need to go through the pain before we enjoy the benefits of decentralization.
And how have you been pitching that center of enablement approach to non-technical folks who've just got their heads around data mesh and center of excellence?
Well, thankfully they haven't.
Okay.
Data mesh is a very alien concept. That's good. It is an absolute challenge. How do you go to a data professional that's in a business unit and tell them, by the way, we're going to centralize some of the capabilities, but then give you still everything you need? The answer is usually, well, okay, if I'm going to get what I have now, why do I need to change? What's the point? So we're looking at pain points. Where are your gaps with how we're doing things now? Some things work, but others don't. Let's talk about them and how can we address those things? So rather than just saying, we're going to give you what you have today in the same way, actually, let's talk about the challenges that we can solve. And that's been getting more traction and more buy-in. Say, oh God, that thing that I hate. Oh God, I hate the fact that I have to wait a week for data. You can give it me within minutes. Brilliant. Let's do it. So it's almost trying to be tactical support. You're not going to get everyone on the board. I can guarantee this. In my career, I have never had the whole business completely supporting a decentralized, a centralized, a hybrid approach. There's always someone that wants it the other way. But at the same time, you can't please everyone, right? It's got to be the 80-20 rule in my head.
I vote for community of enablers. You mentioned that you weren't writing a book, but at least turn that into a post on Medium or Substack or somewhere, at least, because I totally embrace that. I think it's very, very relevant and my takeaway from this conversation. But anyway, there were many, but I like that concept a lot. With that, I would like to conclude. Thank you, all of you, for participating in this roundtable. It was an honor and pleasure to meet you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Pleasure.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much.